Hey there, welcome to episode 139 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, as usual. We're recording this at 11:12 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. Today's title and topic, Handle Grab. We're talking about internet usernames. I don't know what you were thinking. No, not door handles, car handles, mug handles. These are the names that you use to refer to people on various, usually public-facing, but not always, internet websites and platforms and so on. The handle grab. If you've never heard of FFS Talk before, welcome. This is a program designed to encourage debate, discussion, argument, maybe solving problems on some small scale, perhaps. The idea is simple. We talk about what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. Normally, there would be a guest. I say normally as if there has been a guest. Truth be told, we're 139 episodes in today. There isn't a zero, episode 0. So at the end of today, technically recording this, 140. All that said, we've never had a guest on. I've never really asked anyone to be a guest. I could and I should. But in the meantime, we have 139, soon to be 140 episodes of topics and positions held by me, your host, so that anyone who might want to become a guest, join in, could select one of the topics already covered. Some of them have been covered a couple of different ways. I always reserve the right to address the same. I don't know if I've said this out loud. I reserve the right to address a similar topic or even the same exact topic later with new information or an opinion change. We're humans. We're allowed to change our opinions based on new information. So I don't know that I've repeated anything explicitly. I've done some multi-part series to kind of look at things from different angles and so on. Anyway, that's the nature of the FFS Talk audio program. So yeah, we'll have guests one of these days. Maybe it'll be you. If you're not sure what FFS means, you need to hang out with more Irish people. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a mostly brief, slightly longer than normal summary, which I'll read to you, and the 2 usual links. I'm sure I could go hunt down a directory of social networking and social media platforms and other websites and tools and platforms that have required or enabled one to select a username or a handle, usually thanks to Twitter, I think. Was it Twitter? The @ sign is the kind of universal username. It's really kind of an email thing, right? They just moved the username into where your domain would be. So user @ email domain becomes @user. And if you're an ActivityPub person using Mastodon, for example, you would be @user @server domain. So sometimes the name matters more than others, depends on scarcity, as most things do. But I didn't want to pull up all that stuff. That's not really what we're talking about today, not the catalog of possibilities, but really whether we should be doing this at all, hunting down and grabbing our handles. On that note, the summary of today's episode, not so often lately, although I've simplified it a bit. There are a lot of niche websites out there, so I'm speaking very broadly and generally. So not so often lately, but through the history of the internets, there were new social networking and social media platforms coming onto the scene all too frequently, and we always needed to get the same name on the new platforms that we already had on the existing platforms, didn't we? The links for today's episode, as I mentioned, were the same as last week's, are the same as what last week's were. How about that? The FFS Talk homepage, FFS Talk, FFSTALK.com, and the profile page linking everything. buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. That is a profile page I've had for over 5 years. It was 5 years in March. So I still use it. It has links to all my various audio programs, my various projects, partial list, some biographical information, and some affiliate links to products I actually use You do not have to spend any money at the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo page or on that platform for my sake. You are welcome to. You can click on affiliate links, and if you purchase something, you don't pay extra, but that will go towards the purchase of more coffee. Coffee does power everything, hence the name, Buy Me a Coffee. I like the site because I don't have to maintain it. I have a place that I can point people to that will be there maybe another 5 years. Who knows? The information that's found there should also be found on all of my websites from an about me perspective. So that's coming soon. Everything's coming soon. I won't even bore you with a to-do list or commitments to making the website look better one of these days. It's still going to happen, but it is one of these days. That's a longer story for another episode of a different program. Do be aware that the Buy Me a Coffee website used to be the exclusive place where I publish the Buy Me an Update audio program, which is published on Monday mornings. It is named for buymeacoffee.com, of course. I figured it'd be interesting to publish audio there to see if anybody would actually listen to it. To hint at an answer, the very same program is published 2 hours later, non-exclusively, on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. There's an RSS feed. It's published to YouTube, so you can get the transcript. We got you. But Buy Me a Coffee is still there after all these years. Buy Me an Update available Monday mornings, 5 minutes or less. Previous week's audio program topics and news and announcements upcoming. So let's get started so we can get finished on this Heat Wave Thursday. It's supposed to be a hot one. It is the desert. So we all did it. That's how I remember it. I was thinking on yesterday, as I record this, about the adventure that was new social networking and social media platforms coming onto the scene all the time. Not like multiple times per day. Well, it felt like it, though. There was a lot going on back in the, 96, 2000, after the Great Recession. A lot of new startups trying to rebuild modernity and all that. There was a time when Twitter was the new kid on the block and sort of weird with the short microblog entries and so on. It was launched at South by Southwest. Messages used to be the size of an SMS text message on phones, minus a few characters for some overhead. MySpace was a thing. Orkut was some other kind of thing. I don't know if I ever signed up for Orkut. Friendster was almost too on the nose. Friendster. Bleh. Who wants to keep track of your friends on a website? And it had a vowel. Friend, S-T-E-R. Get that E out of there. There were Buzz, Jaiku, and so many more. And again, I'm speaking more general platforms that we'd all be familiar with now. There are many niche platforms. When I create the cover art for today's episode, I'll try to get some sort of representation of the vastness of possibilities when it came to platforms. And of course, you had to grab a name on each one. In this window of time, it began to become important that we grab the same handle on new platforms. So it was the same as the handle we had on existing platforms so that we could sort of soft verify that this was the same Dan Hugo on Jaiku that it was on Buzz and that it was on Orkut. I don't even know if I had a Buzz account on Google Buzz, which means it got end of lifed at some point. And then I could easily list all of my handles and they would all make sense because it's Dan Hugo on all platforms. It's me, same name, but in different places. Piece of cake, easy. Over the more recent years, the number of surviving platforms has grown small. Jaiku was kind of like Twitter, but didn't make it. There were a lot. Those are the ones that came to mind that I remember doing this. Oh, new platform. I got to get Dan Hugo on that one so I can be Dan Hugo on all these platforms. What about the one I'm living in? Can I just be Dan Hugo here? So over the recent, a lot of them went away. They didn't all survive. So you need to have your Twitter handle now, X, of course. You got to have your YouTube channel name. That was fun when they enabled you to pick a handle for that. You are eligible to select an @ for your channel. And you got to act quickly because somebody else might be Dan Hugo. We already know that's true. By the way, yesterday's episode of Quaggling Sand was about getting online, and I talked about some of these things. in the larger context of going from, hey, look, it's nice outside, to, hey, look, my cell phone gets connected to the internet 24 hours a day. There are others, depending on what you're up to. There's, again, there are niche websites and so on. So all of these things are far more important for your business than for your humanity, of course. So some of the cynicism can be lightened up a bit if you're using these platforms for business, because of course you want people to be able to find you. And if I suddenly registered Toyota on Twitter or X, that might be confusing and might put my future in jeopardy with a lawsuit, to be sure. So that was just grab some water there. Sorry. So what works? Remember, what works, what doesn't, what can we do about it? So what works? What works with all these handles? In those early days with so many platforms, it was something of a race to grab your name on the new ones. Your name, your handle, whatever it might be. It could be your handle, could be your name. I do that. Some people prefer something else. But this did make it easier for people to find you, and vice versa. Hey, is Dan Hugo using Twitter? Oh, there he is. Hey, that looks like his picture. Of course, anybody can do that. This is before it was so common to announce new handles on new platforms to your friends and followers on your existing platforms. Hey, come and follow me over on Mastodon or Blue Sky or whatever. Right now, I just signed up at Blue Sky, and I'm also Dan Hugo on Blue Sky. I think I'm Dan Hugo on Blue Sky. You're probably hearing some hard caster wheels in the hallway outside. Sorry. That evolved naturally, that people would just sort of announce. They'd tell their friend, hey, I'm on this other, I just signed up for a GitHub account, and so on and so on. And before we knew it, we were all hanging out everywhere, and everybody knew our names like norm, only not as cool. Yeah, you can liken social, especially nowadays, social networking, social media websites. They're almost like hanging out in a pub or a coffee shop or whatever. So the notion is, I must have a chair with my name on it in all of the coffee shops or all of the pubs or wherever, and it always has to be the same name. This is interesting. So the what works is that it was easy to find people. You could announce that, hey, it's the same name but on a new platform that just launched and all that. So it was just easier for people to remember, easier to build an audience if that's what you were doing, or easier to connect with friends or colleagues or whomever you might want to connect with on these new platforms. If you already knew their name, you could reach out to them. Same thing in reverse, right? Oh, I wonder if Dan Hugo is signed up on this platform. Oh, there is oh, nope, that's a different one. That's not the one I'm looking for. I guess he was too late. This is interesting as a person to be more easily and consistently found, but obviously this matters substantially more for branding of a product or business. Every new platform needed to have a Toyota branded handle, not only to be more easily and consistently found, but to protect the trademarks and brand awareness. Again, if I registered Toyota as my handle on Twitter, I would probably receive an email from somewhere. Although I think at some point companies just started saying, you know what, you can't register that name. You got to prove you are Toyota before you can register that name. Basically, the platform will be on the side of the trademark holder or whatever, and that's probably not unreasonable. There is a legitimate reason to pursue this brand consistency, and eventually as the more popular and resilient platforms persisted, so X is still here. We can remember it as Twitter. Hang on. Oh, sorry about that. I had to clear my throat a little bit. What you heard there was a pause and an unpause. And that was not an edit, cut, or anything. I started noticing that you can hear them sometimes. It will sound like an edit, but it's actually just literally me hitting P, so I can grab a drink of water, make less noise, turn off my air conditioner, etc. So there you go. So yeah, brand consistency, and so you can be found. Somebody types in Toyota and it goes to a handle that says Toyota, but it's actually somebody at Wendy's who wants to be humorous. So the more popular and resilient platforms, again, like X, which used to be Twitter, they outlasted Jaiku and any other competitors. So as the numbers dwindled, the number of handles to defend became more manageable. You don't have to defend Toyota if you are the person in charge of that across 50 new platforms this month. You just have to keep an eye on it for maybe one or two here or there. There was general awareness that squatting on a trademark was not going to last long anyway, so you may as well not register Toyota. I can't remember what the final opinion was, but I do believe you could register Toyota sucks and you'd be okay. I think. I'm not a lawyer, but check that for yourself if you need to. Do not register Dan Hugo sucks. Attention spans have shortened over time. It is much easier and more likely that consumers of audio and video media will more easily associate a consistent name on multiple platforms, where they might recall the one that might be found on their platform of choice. Oh, I like Instagram better than Twitter. I wonder if Dan Hugo, oh, look, Dan Hugo does have an Instagram account. And, oh, it looks like he exited the platform years ago. I think 3 years ago. I haven't posted anything on Instagram in a good long time. Woe unto thee who failed to grab and hold on to their handles such that they need to call out that one that isn't the same. Who hasn't heard of or seen the collection of same handles? Maybe you have a favorite channel or 1,000 on YouTube or a TikToker, and you can also find me on all the socials except for the one that I didn't get, and somebody else has the name, so don't follow them. Sometimes you'll get, somebody has my name, so I'm the real Dan Hugo, real Dan Hugo at whatever. I've never had to do that, but you never know when I'm rich and famous, or one of those. And even today, I will watch or listen to something, and the host of the show, the person producing this, or whomever it is, will say, oh, yes, you can find me on all this, except for Twitter, where I am or you have to spell out my full name instead of whatever, it is. So whatever it is. So this happens, and that's the way it is. I'm the same. It's the same on all socials except for Instagram. I'm Insta Dan Hugo, whatever it is. So there's always the different one or two. Vigilance and timely proaction can make a difference if being found is the goal. Now, it shouldn't matter, aside from discoverability, but in the old days, it was a little bit more like a new thing. It wasn't just a presumption that like, oh, what's your Twitter handle? People might just search for Dan Hugo and say, that must be him. One time I was pranking someone. I created a profile that was identical to theirs. I changed one letter so it looked mostly the same in their Twitter handle. I took their profile picture and mirrored it so they were looking in the different direction. So it was not identical, but to the casual user, they might say, oh yeah, that's probably that person. So this can happen still. So grabbing your handle is important for some. On the other hand, you shouldn't just assume that, Toyota, that must be Toyota. I'm picking on Toyota for no good reason. You should check, right? And we'll get to that in a second. So having the handle is just extra work. It doesn't on its own guarantee or stipulate or validate anything. So what does not work about this whole scheme? The first problem with all of this for an individual or a company is the management of fleeting assets. That is, I might need to pay attention to the launching of new platforms so I can sign up myself or my brand or my company or whatever. Who knows how many I need to grab? I might need to grab different variations and so on just to make sure, just to be certain. I'll grab that Dan Hugo Sucks handle on all the platforms also. And those platforms might last for minutes in internet time. So I got to spend all this time and they're not even going to be around next month. If you remember the game Whack-A-Mole, it could be like that. And in the end, the wagers on viability of new platforms take up time, not to mention the extra trouble if an alternate handle is all that's available, and the associated legal action which might follow to grab that original if somebody else already registered it. So it becomes like an unnecessary management task. And these assets you're acquiring, these handles on these platforms, which they're mostly not being paid, they're free. So it's your problem, or it's my problem. You got to register it and deal with it. And if somebody else grabs it first, then it becomes an issue. So do you have to grab the alternate handle? Do you have to grab Toyota 1, real Toyota, etc.? So now you get into like policies and best practices. You have to do this with domain names anyway, right? So it's like everything is a real estate transaction. If someone does grab your handle on the new shiny platform, or if for some reason I don't know if you can let your handle lapse, or if somebody hacks your account and they change the owner to their credentials, so now they have your handle and so on. If they squat on your preferred name, either because they have a similar name and they wanted and have wanted the names that you have been selecting previously, or maybe they wanted to actually impersonate you or your brand, they'll do the spelling trick like I've described with my prank Twitter handle. Verification was often not a well-defined and generally understood feature on each platform. Nobody was signing their identities. So it was sort of a slapdash, if I can use a classic term. Verification was not well defined and generally understood a feature on all these various platforms, whether it's a blue check mark that one can simply pay for sometimes, or verification by way of a government issued ID. What is it? Actually, Twitter used to do that, I think, for the blue check mark. Then it became a subscription, and that wreaked all manner of havoc. If legal or other methods are not pursued, you may need to deal with potential confusion on an ongoing basis. So if I were to become Toyota, then I probably have to deal with that in one way or another if I am not sued, but I would be sued, or there'd be some sort of a cease and desist or something. More a problem for individuals, most likely, without the budget for legal action, but it's still a human problem. So whatever the case is, I have to go get my name again because some idiot is launching another version of Twitter. So that's no fun, but it's your problem, and or your brand's problem. Somebody at Toyota is saying, "Oh no, they launched another thing that we have to deal with." I was always troubled, if I can interrupt myself, I was always troubled that companies would advertise, like, come and find, and I'm actually picking on Toyota because this is when I had this little mini epiphany. I saw a billboard somewhere and it had the Toyota brand and it said, find us on Facebook, like facebook.com/Toyota or whatever it was, Pages, Toyota, however they linked to it. And I thought to myself, why? Well, I mean, we know why, but why would someone have a brand as well known and even as respected as Toyota, like a global brand for cars, right? They're known for being reliable and so on. Why would you say, we're going to take that and we're going to put it behind a Facebook login and we're going to brand it with Facebook first, facebook.com/something, Toyota? Okay, sure. So they're literally handing their brand over to the Facebook problem. But this is just another thing to deal with, right? So you have to deal with, how are we going to manage our name in these various contexts and make sure that nobody else is doing that for us without our consent. Once you have a handle on a particular platform, what happens when you need to want or need to leave that platform? I have my X handle. I haven't typed anything into my profile, into my status on the X platform it's been a while, over a year. Sometime after the purchase and the name change, but not recently. So I'm basically turning my back on most of the social media platforms that are now mega corporations. Suppose you stop using Facebook, another platform I no longer use, but I still have my accounts. But you have various Facebook friends who still follow the account. What happens if you delete your account and your handle goes away? Oh, I was looking for Dan Hugo on Facebook and I couldn't find. Oh, wait, no, there it is. Okay, there's Dan Hugo. Even if I delete my account, that can still happen. Enterprising individuals, or maybe robots, can grab that username and recreate a profile, recreate profile content. So they'll build a profile and stick your stuff in it to reconnect with friends or have them connect and so on. So it becomes a channel to reach other people under my name, but it won't be you or it won't be me. This sounds far-fetched, except it has been done. I've spoken to people who've had this happen to them, especially on the old Facebook accounts that people don't use anymore. They let them go idle for a long time. There must be a robot that wanders around looking for old accounts, copies their profile, picture, and some data and whatnot, and then waits. Maybe it grabs the friend list. Who knows? You can scrape all that stuff pretty easily. And then you wait for the account to be deleted, or maybe you create an account that's very similar in spelling, but you use the same profile information. This happens on LinkedIn as well. They're getting a little bit better at filtering that out, but somebody can create a brand new account, fill it in with a bunch of stuff from somebody's existing account, their name, their picture, and so on. They'll slowly gather followers, like, oh, Dan Hugo must have a new LinkedIn page. Let's connect, even though it's not me. So this stuff happens. And this is why this is such a problem, in my opinion, is that you're basically claiming a name just because. An inexorable link to this platform becomes a management task for, forever. You are found on their platform for all time, possibly even after you delete your account. It can be recreated. I read somewhere, and I don't know how they actually handled this at the end of the day, but I read somewhere that when there was the takeover of Twitter, the purchase, the acquisition, and privatization, there was a claim made that idle accounts were going to be deleted so that the usernames could be reused. And you can see where that would be a problem. Anybody who has a cell phone number that used to belong to somebody else, and then you look at something like Telegram or Signal, or Telegram especially, I've had probably 2 or 3 instances where someone who I know has passed away just joined Telegram. It's because somebody has that phone number, because the phone number probably went back into the availability pool and somebody else got the number. So when you use a phone number that can be reassigned, or you use a name that has nothing behind it, I just got the name. That's all. I just have the name. I am Dan Toyota. Then what happens next is anyone's guess. So this is sort of a lax system. It doesn't have to be like this. Hang on a second. All right, that was a pause again. I will tell you, and if you go to my Buy Me a Coffee page, scroll down, the nasal fresh is something I haven't been using it a lot, because I'm trying to see if I can not depend on it so much, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I'm not going to describe it to you. It's for sinuses. If you're familiar with a neti pot, it's kind of like that, except there's a motor. So we'll leave that there. But I used it last night. I hadn't used it in weeks, but I finally said, I got to use this thing. And so now it's kind of changed my sinuses around, and the weather is weird. And so I'll apologize again for vocal challenges. Like every episode is something new, not just of this program, of all of my productions, which you can find on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. Anyway, what can we do about this handle situation? Now, these are not the only ways to proceed here. I will tell you right now, I think handles should be assigned by the follower. Like you could set a default handle, but anyone could set the default handle to whatever they want. And there could be multiple default handles. So if somebody wants to be Toyota or Dan Hugo, they could do that. But I would be the Dan Hugo that has a danhugo.com website and all. So I could provide my own evidence that I am the Dan Hugo you are looking for. There are other Dan Hugos in the world. And in my Quaggling Sand episode from yesterday, I told the story when I was working at Netscape of a young South African Dan Hugo reaching out to me and saying, hey, I found you on the Netscape website, because employees of Netscape had profile pages that you could have a homepage on the Netscape domain. That was nice. So he reached out to me, hey, I'm also Dan Hugo and this and that. So it happens. So on Twitter, he had to be DG Hugo and I am Dan Hugo. So he would love to have been Dan Hugo, and so would all of the fans of his, because he was an Xterra triathlete and I was not. So we would be confused every once in a while when somebody would tag me for some sporting event that he was actually a part of. So that sort of thing should be a question of, like, I know to whom I am referring when I type Dan Hugo. I might want to say, oh, my friend at DH. But when it's displayed to other people, it will have the default name, or maybe it's the name that I've assigned. So maybe somebody else who also follows me on whatever platform would say, oh, yes, that's Daniel Hugo. So it'd be at Daniel Hugo. So to them, I'm Daniel Hugo. To me, I'm Dan Hugo, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that wouldn't be too difficult to do. And I think it would actually be, it would make life a lot easier. People would still be misusing names, and it would put the onus on the person looking for the right person, the right handle that they want to locate and perhaps follow or interact with. But that's true in a lot of cases anyway. If you ever go to LinkedIn and you search for John Smith or Jane Doe, super common names, you're going to get multiple responses. You're going to get a lot of matches, and you have to figure out who it is. Usually the profile picture is a good hint, or a location, or a former place of employment, or so on and so on. So you kind of have to drill down into more match data to make the determination. You could do the same thing with handles on social media. So they made it purposely simple, and simplicity is not always the right way, my opinion. So what can we do about it? Consider a home base. Registering domains has only become easier over the years, and certainly prices have come down on .coms and all this. There really is no reason someone who wants to be easily found in a verifiable way online should not have a single domain that everyone knows about. This requires consistent marketing and announcements and whatnot, like, hey, here is our domain. And here again, you can have toyota.com, but you could also have toyota.xyz, and I'm sure somebody would complain about that. But domain names are another place that are kind of like handles. Somebody has to manage which domains are owned and which ones could be purchased if someone else owns them and so on. This is not uncommon. The domain name system is slightly more structured. It has its problems. But if you could register your domain, then you're one step closer to not having to go chasing handles around. And if there was this sort of follower-based naming scheme, so that you would have like a number, an account number, a handle, like a user number, which you already do have. Right? If you've ever looked at the Twitter API when they supported it, your user ID remains unchanged, even if you change your Twitter handle. Right? That's what makes everything work. So this is totally doable. Or you could do something like what Blue Sky does for account verification. You can change your Blue Sky handle to your domain. I could be dan@danhugo.com on Blue Sky, if I'm not mistaken. And then I would just have to apply like a domain name claim to a DNS record, and I'm good to go. The Mastodon scheme is different because to verify you are me, you put a, what's it called? The XFN header on a web page that you control. So I have an XFN header, rel equals me, on my danhugo.com website. So Dan Hugo on, Foston, I think I have it on GitHub. But yes, you can interconnect. So you'd say, oh yes, that's the same Dan Hugo on this Mastodon server that is on the GitHub account that I'm following. So there are ways to do this that that are in practice. They've been put into practice today, and they work. Pardon me again. Okay. If you have one home domain name which you own and control, so like I purchased reallycool.com in March of 1996 because I wanted to have a consistent email address. So the same extends to everything we've been talking about today. I can be contacted consistently at you could email me at thugo@reallycool.com. Go ahead, try it. It will reach me. Do I have a website there? No, because for social media, I usually use Dan Hugo, and I verify through the XFN scheme there. I also don't use Instagram or Facebook or all these other sites anymore. So really it's come down to, I don't even use Blue Sky. I have an account, but I don't use it anymore. So it's basically verifying my Mastodon server identities, handles, and that's pretty straightforward. So I have home domains, home bases that I own and control, and then I can use those as a single point of contact. So similarly, the FFS Talk homepage is where you would then locate any other like related resources where you can find the podcast, the audio program on Amazon and other places. I think there's a thing called Podlink, pod.link or LNK. It lists all of the platforms that have mobile podcast clients and all this for every show. So if I go and look up my Podlink ID for my FFS Talk audio program, you will find a big collection of links to Podcatcher, Gpod, or whatever it is, all these different hosts where there's probably an app. What is it? What was it called? I used to have this app on my phone that was a really good podcast app, but it stopped working the way it used to work. Anyway, so whatever that was. Oh yes, there it is in there. So they mirror MP3 episodes or audio enclosures. So you can find it through their directory with their app and so on. It just helps spread the word about podcasts and then the content. The important part though is that you can find this link to a collection of links. There's those noisy casters again. You can find the link if you know that all things FFS Talk are at ffstalk.com. So if I continuously refer to that as the primary point of contact, then I don't have to worry that somebody else is using FFS Talk on Twitter. Okay, that's not us. Consider decentralized social networking like Mastodon. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Mastodon. There are a couple things I would do differently, but it does interoperate using ActivityPub, which is a publish and subscribe scheme for activity streams, which is itself an open standard. So there's a lot of possibilities, and there's an endless supply of people who have been deploying applications that will look familiar, like is it Lemmy or Lenny? I think it's Lemmy, which is a Reddit-like platform implementation that uses ActivityPub. There's PixelPub, it's like Instagram. There's PeerTube, which is like YouTube, and so on. So people have been going nuts making decentralized platforms. Now you don't have to worry about being Dan Hugo on one server, because you can be Dan Hugo on 4 other servers if you want, which I have done. And you can too. Here you need not be so concerned with grabbing your handle on the one platform so much as grabbing handles you want or need on the platform server of your choice or choices. You can even host your own server or platform. I could do that at danhugo.com, and I could have an ActivityPub Mastodon server or something else that supports ActivityPub and go from there if I wanted to. In other words, this is a move from grabbing the one handle on the new platform to verifying the handle you did grab against a home base or a domain or a website that you own. Owning your own domain helps with the verification process in general, so you should consider it. Right now, it doesn't matter if somebody registers toyota.com at fosstodon.social on a Mastodon server, because they won't be able to verify their identity. So at a quick glance, once you know what you're looking for, which is, do they have verified links in their profile? Do they have a verified link at toyota.com? Right. So if you trust that toyota.com is owned by the Toyota Corporation, Toyota Americas or whatever they call it here, or the home base probably in Japan somewhere, then you have verified that this is probably the account you're looking for. And if you look up the domain ownership information for toyota.com, you can then further verify that. So there's like a chain of evidence that connects all these things. It isn't just some silly blue check mark that somebody paid for. So owning your own domain is a big win, and they're cheap. Final point, real, secure, and easily understood verification of any particular account handle is possible, but not so consistent. And that is where the real issue, including the credible exit program, arises, this is also a problem. It also arises. Credible exit, you can look it up, where anyone should be able to close or move their account, just like the cell phone problem with Telegram and so on. That number should be closed, and you should know that it is no longer the person you thought it was. Right? I have the cell phone number for a person I knew that person passed away, but I still have the cell phone number with their name attached to it. So when someone joins Telegram with the same phone number, Telegram says, oh, the person in your contact list with the same phone number just joined. And I'm thinking that person is no longer alive. So it's should be fixed. So if somebody closes or moves their account, or they're no longer around, their handle, their information, their account information, the handle associated with their account, should be movable from one platform to another without compromising the account as it was, or it should be able to be closed, and everyone should know that this is no longer that person. Okay, credible exit. In other words, you should always be you, regardless of platform, and your identity, brand, existence, everything really should be yours and should not be owned, controlled, or mishandled by a third party like Twitter or Facebook, etc. This can be done, but you need to do it, or you need to actually demand that this capability is implemented. But really, you should take back the internet and consider decentralized identity and account and presence. So yeah, the handle grab. If you never had to take part in that, if you never had to deal with it, and I kind of have the feeling that we're moving away from that a little bit. Good for you. The naming convention, I don't know that that's going to go away anytime soon, but I don't know that people are so worried because of either you just go to TikTok and you find your handle and that's what you're going to use, and people can contact you there and everything. Same with Instagram. What's your Insta? So people just use that, and you have your handle, and whenever you got it, and that's what you do, and you don't have to worry about it after that. But honestly, decentralized options and taking back ownership of your identity and your presence on the internets does make sense if you take the long view. And so I'm taking that long view now, let's call it 30 years later, after I first did I got to get a MySpace page for Dan Hugo, which I think is still there last time I looked, which I'm not going to. So that's it. That's all I got to say. The handle grab. Let's not do that anymore. Own your presence online, if I may advocate for that. And take back your identity and your presence on the internets. Own it, control it, do with it what you will, and let no other do that. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with my wonky voice for today. It's becoming a common occurrence, I know. And enjoy your weekend. If you're here in the greater Vegas area, stay cool, stay hydrated. It's going to be a hot one. Although Phoenix, where I used to live many, many years ago, high school, etc., they are supposed to also be breaking records. And I was there when it was 122 degrees, and that's hot. We're supposed to be we're supposed to be over 110 degrees for the next couple of days or a week here in Vegas. We'll see. But 122, that's a hot one. That's where I'll leave it for today. Thank you so much. Don't forget, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo for links to all of my audio programs and various other things that you might find interesting. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. Take care. Bye-bye.